Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD1111 class for the fall 2020 semester, I'm doing a series of video presentations based on the textbook we're using for the class, that being Get Programming with Node.js by Jonathan Wexler, a Manning publication. And we are into Unit 2 of the book and Lesson 8. And we're almost done. I probably could have finished in the last video, but we've got about 3 pages left in here. Alright? But it gives us a chance to slow down and really and truly take this slow. I'm planning on taking this slow in the classroom as well. So, I'm on page 92. And as the author says here, a web framework is designed to do a lot of the tedious tasks for you and leave you with an intuitive structure for customizing your app. So in other words, a lot of the grunt work is being done by Express in this case. So as it says, it provides a way to listen for requests to specific URLs and then respond using a callback function. We've talked about callbacks quite a bit already. We will continue to as we go on. So as mentioned here, a web framework like Express operates through functions considered to be what's referred to as middleware. It's called middleware because it sits between the HTTP interaction, so your requests and your responses, and the actual Node.js platform itself. Notice as it says, middleware is a generic or general term applied to any code that assists in listening for, analyzing, filtering, and handling HTTP communication before the data interacts with your application logic. They liken it to being someone who works at a post office that says, you know, if you decide that you're going to mail a package out to somebody, before you do that, you bring it into the post office, they inspect it, depending, you know, they'll at least ask you what it is. You know, they want to make sure you're not sending out anything you shouldn't, that's dangerous or whatever. But they also figure out how much postage you will cost based on the amount of how far it's going, how you plan on sending it, etc. So they show this middleware diagram here on the middle of page 92, and it's pretty simple. It's only got 2 steps in it. Step 1, the request is made to the server. Step 2, Express receives the request and processes it before handing it off to other parts of the application. As we go on in here, you know, in the next unit, we'll bring in the database component, for example. So as it says here, middleware can come in smaller packages than Express. Some play a security role and some play other roles. Because we're still dealing with HTTP methods, the overall interaction doesn't change much. So it's when we start to change this around, the code will change, but the way this looks, all right, unless we change our messages and the like, will not change very much. As it says, you get the same request and response objects containing a lot of information about the sender and about the contents. Express.js offers methods that make it easier for you to get that information. So, Express provides simpler ways to pull and log data from the request body. It says here to add the code to our get handler in main.js. Let's take a look. Let's leave it there. See if I can bring this up. Do it like this. Alright, I don't want it to be that big, of course, but that's okay. We'll get this to work yet. Alright, so inside of our get right here, I think they mean right here, console.log req dot. I'm going to stop it right there so I can copy this. So we want request.params, we want request.body, we want request.url, and we want request.query. Let's save that. All right, now I'm going to go back. right? You'll notice it restarting due to changes. Okay? We haven't changed any of our verbiage, but I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to refresh the page and then go back to here. And now notice what it tells us. This is the key stuff in here. This is params right here. So it's telling us right now params is an empty object. All right. You'll see stuff in there in just a bit. Our body is undefined. Why? Because it's just text. There's nothing in there. The URL is /, which represents home. And the query, again, is an empty object. All right, so we are getting that information back. These 4 things that you're seeing right here. And notice, okay, it looks like it's almost run 3 times right now. And that's because I refreshed. Otherwise, of course, it would be 2. So when we look on the bottom of page 93, what we see there is what these different things mean. I don't want to read everything to you, but notice params allows you to extract IDs and tokens from the URL. That'll become more important as we go on, especially when we get into RESTful routes in Unit 4. We've got the body, as it says, contains much of the contents of the request, which often includes data coming from a post. We'll get into that in a while. From the body, you can collect information quickly and save it in a database. That'll be the next lesson. URL provides information about the URL being visited. As it says, it's similar to the req.url that we used in the previous unit. Finally, query, like body, lets you pull data being submitted to the application server. So, upon starting it and visiting localhost, you should see the values logged to your window. We did. All right, the author says in the next lesson, we'll start to fill in these gaps that were pretty empty, for lack of better words. All right, we'll get into query string in just a little bit. And here is an example of a query string. The query string is always, this is not the query string. The query string is what is the question mark and what comes after it. So in here we're saying that basically we are sending an attribute named name with a value of John. All right, and we'll get into that in more detail in the next chapter. All right, finally, as we finish up here with Lesson 8, the author says, why do most developers use web frameworks? Because again, they make your work easier. They get rid of a lot of the mundane type of work that you would normally have to do yourself. Plus, what you'll notice, hopefully as we go on, is that your application will have a more modular look and feel to it. So, in this lesson, we will learn what Express was and how to initialize an Express.js project. All right, we learned a little bit about what middleware was. So in the next lesson, we'll apply some built-in JS Express.js methods in building our routing system. Again, you will have time in class to go over this stuff. I guarantee it. That's really it for this lesson. As I mentioned at the beginning, it might be a shorter lesson, and it is.